Hi, welcome to the channel. I have a question for you. Why are Jehovah's Witnesses, why have they become so fascinated with the life of Jesus Christ? Now, I'm not saying that Jehovah's Witnesses have not discussed or dissected the life of Jesus Christ in their publications and in their teachings over the years, over these past 100 and something years of their existence. But within the last 5 years or so, Jehovah's Witnesses have become really fixated on the life of Jesus Christ. And I am wondering, what is the thought process behind Jehovah's Witnesses really using the life of Jesus Christ as the foundation of most of their conventions and their special day assemblies? Not only that, also with their publications that they are using to so-called teach the public about Jesus and about the principles of Jesus' life. When you think about Jesus Christ, you are immediately taken back to the Bible, and you are taken to the first, I want to say, 5 books of the New Testament, or 4 books of the New Testament, which would be Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And those are the foundational books of the New Testament, which talk about the life of Jesus Christ. All right? And those authors, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were the apostles, or the core 12 apostles of Jesus Christ. When you move on past the last book, which I believe is John, and you move into Acts, and from Acts to Revelations, you have the part of the New Testament which became the foundation of Christianity. The majority of those books were letters, and they were basically written by, let's say, the Apostle John. They were written by, excuse me, I want to say the Apostle Timothy, and the Apostle or disciple Titus. Okay, but the bulk of the New Testament is really written by the Apostle Paul. And that is what the foundation or the pillars of Christianity are basically built upon. And the secondary elements of Christianity is based upon the life and works of Jesus Christ. So when you think about the Christianity per se, you don't necessarily think about Jesus, even though you have principal holidays that celebrate him, which would be Christmas, which celebrates his birth, and then you have Easter, which celebrates his death. But in between, you do not have any corresponding holidays or anything that really give credence to who Jesus Christ actually was and what his works were. Christianity mostly focuses on what the Apostle John said, or his interpretation of what Jesus Christ's works were, and the foundation of how to worship, and worship that is acceptable based upon what he felt the life of Jesus Christ was about. When you take the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John into consideration, you find out, after doing extensive research, that these books of the Bible were written 40 and 50 years after the death of Jesus Christ. So basically, while Paul was in existence, there was no book of Mark, no book of Matthew, no book of Luke, no book of John. He was basically going on the words of the apostles that were living at that time, who had interactions with Jesus Christ. So when you think of Christianity in a canon within itself, you come to the realization that a lot of Christianity was not really built on and centered around Jesus Christ himself. That's critical thinking, and that's what critical thinking has led me to. Now, over the years, Jehovah's Witnesses have been accused of either not believing in Jesus at some point because of their name being Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, Jehovah's Witnesses have been accused of really not being adherents or true adherents of Christianity because they really did not focus on Jesus Christ. Now, some of that is a yes and some of that is a no. Jehovah's Witnesses have always believed in Jesus Christ, even though their primary focus wasn't on Jesus per se, in the form of, Christianity hold Jesus sacred, like with the cross and things of that nature. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the cross. They don't believe in they believe in the ransom. They believe in all of those things. Those things are really important, but they focus mostly on the principle of a supreme being, which is Jehovah. And then Jesus Christ would be, the lesser one on that. But important, but not as important as Jehovah God, the supreme one, the Almighty, the Creator. So within the last few years, however, Jehovah's Witnesses have been building Hollywood style movie studios. And those movie studios have been utilized to produce a series of, major, a major film making undertaking. And these films are called The Good News According to Jesus Christ. And Jehovah's Witnesses have been using these videos of Jesus Christ or reenactment dramas about the life of Jesus Christ based on the gospel accounts of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they have been using these videos as teaching tools at their conventions, special day assemblies, and in their weekly Bible discussions as congregations. And what I've learned recently from these video releases, I believe right now they're on episode 6. I believe episodes 4, 5, and 6 were released a few months ago, and they are being played right now at these special summer conventions. And what Jehovah's Witnesses are doing is now that they are formulating all of their talks or Bible lectures at conventions, they're centering it around the teachings of Jesus Christ and how Jesus Christ treated the people that he engaged with, how he treated his apostles, his disciples, how he treated and how he spoke to the people or the opposition leaders of that time, which were the Pharisees and the Sadducees and other religious leaders at the temple. They're focusing on his restorative work, healing the sick, raising the dead, feeding the poor. And they're focusing a lot on how Jesus' character and how he, just was able to attract crowds because of his demeanor and because of his demeanor, his character, and the way he walked in truth and authenticity. And I've asked myself several times, why is it that Jehovah's Witnesses are really, truly getting into teaching the life of Christ to their adherents? And I've come away with some very interesting, um, an interesting analysis on why this is the case. And as you know, there have been a lot of talk about the new lights that have been coming on and flickering on in the Watchtower organization these past few years. You had the thing with, you know, men being able to wear beards now, the dress code at the Kingdom Hall or at congregation meetings have been relaxed. Sisters can wear pants if they want to. It's more so a business casual type of thing at the Kingdom Hall now. Um, there's no more, the usage of the word disfellowshipping. They call it removing these days. Another new light is that you can't disfellowship or remove children or minors from the congregation as you could in the past. You can now, toast at a reception, a wedding reception or something of that nature. That's no longer considered a bad thing. And most of the new light, in my opinion, comes strictly from the fact that there were court cases against Jehovah's Witnesses in different countries around the world. And so Jehovah's Witnesses wanted to get an advantage or have an upper hand on it and make their case look solid and good. And so a lot of the new light, I do believe, comes from the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses wanted to win their lawsuits. But what I've always wondered is if Jehovah's Witnesses always presented Jesus Christ and his apostles with beards and things of that nature, I always wondered why it was a bad thing for men in the congregation to wear a beard. And the answer that I was given was because in society, in general society here in the United States and perhaps abroad in Western lands, wearing a beard was considered to be counterculture or part of the subculture, the hippie culture, and that's why it was important that Jehovah's Witnesses men distinguish themselves from, the hippie culture or the subcultures of Western civilization, and that's why, no beards. However, with Jehovah's Witnesses now attempting to line themselves up in regards to being more centered around Jesus Christ, I'm wondering if that had anything to do with the relaxation of the codes for men to wear beards. Another thing that I was wondering too about this centering Jesus Christ more prominently in the JW faith, I was wondering a lot about where this is heading in terms of JW ideology, religiosity. When you and I was thinking about how problematic it could become, because when you see Jesus Christ in these new videos, you see him casting out the dead, not casting out the dead. You see him casting demons or being performing exorcisms. Okay, because that's what he's doing, performing exorcisms, and you see him raising the dead. You see him healing the sick. He healed a man that had leprosy. He healed someone who was blind. He healed someone who had paralysis. A lot of things was going, epilepsy. There were a lot of things going on in Jesus' time that, according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he heals those ailments, right? Those maladies, he heals them. So my question is, as Jehovah's Witnesses really began to center Jesus Christ as the rock of their religiosity, how far are they willing to go with it? Because Jesus Christ, as they showed in one of their episodes or videos at their recent convention, Jesus Christ didn't discriminate against people. Okay. There were women among his disciples. There were women who were with him, um, who engaged in conversation with him and in discussions with him. Um, he hung around people who were the unsavory of society. He didn't discriminate against them. Okay. Even the people who were considered the worst of the worst of the worst of society, such as Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute, and she, was also demon possessed. He performed an exorcism on her, such as Matthew, the tax collector. He was considered to be one of the dregs of society, the lowest of the low of society. And Jesus didn't mind hanging out with him, eating dinner with him. He didn't discriminate. And so I'm wondering where Jehovah's Witnesses are really headed with this. Do Jehovah's Witnesses really want to give the opinion that they are welcoming in that manner? Because Jehovah's Witnesses as a whole, as a group, are not welcoming. Jehovah's Witnesses do, in fact, discriminate against other people, especially people who are gay or lesbian or pansexual or bisexual or transsexual. Jehovah's Witnesses will readily discriminate against them. Jehovah's Witnesses have always been known to discriminate against people, even though they say our message is for everyone. It really most definitely is not for everyone. And if Jehovah's Witnesses are planning to use the good news according to Jesus Christ as the center of their theology, then does that mean that more changes are coming to the Jehovah's Witness organization? Is Watchtower planning more changes? Because all of their talks or Bible lectures that is being given around the world at their special conventions is centering around Jesus Christ. It's centering around these videos of Christ. So what does that mean for the rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses who are getting a thorough education on whom Christianity is supposed to be built upon, but really is not centered around? And does this mean that Jehovah's Witnesses are going to really, truly get back to or bring themselves to or in alignment with the teachings of Jesus Christ? Because if you were to really become aligned with the teachings of Jesus Christ, you would not see the need to tell gay people that they're unacceptable. Because Jesus said that there were only 2 rules that you had to follow if you wanted to follow him. He said there are only 2 rules. And what were those 2 rules? It's to love God with your whole soul, your whole body, your whole mind, and then to love your neighbor as you love yourself. There are only 2 rules of Christianity. So if you really, as an organization, Watchtower, want to align yourselves with Jesus Christ, then you will have to acknowledge that essentially there are only 2 rules to being a good Christian. That's to love God with your everything and to love your neighbor as yourself. So all this other stuff you have going on will have to be tossed out the window to really be an adherent of Jesus Christ. And I really think that's why when you think about Christianity itself, that's why Christianity as a whole is really not about Jesus Christ. It's really not about what Jesus did or how he felt or what he thought. Christianity, even though the meaning of Christianity is to be Christ-like, no one, I repeat, who claims to be a Christian actually follows Christ. They just don't. Most people follow what the Apostle Paul wrote when it comes to Christianity and what the pillars or the foundation of Christianity became. It became the tenets of what the Apostle Paul felt. And as we know, the Apostle Paul was misogynistic. Okay, he was homophobic. Okay, he was an elitist per se. Very much so. And so were the people or the men, the group of men who decided what the tenets of Christianity would be. They were all the things that Paul were. So in order for Jehovah's Witnesses to really, for them to really begin to teach about Jesus Christ, they would have to also realize or recognize the hypocrisy of their theology and the way they practice religion or the way they practice Christianity. What are your thoughts on that? Let me know what you think. And this is just some of my own musings. So let me know what you think about this. And we can talk about it later or in the comments section. Please do not hesitate to give me a thumbs up and to also subscribe to the channel. All right, then. I will see you later. And let's get to really thinking critically. All right. Bye-bye.